Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm here with Freddy Freundlich, the CEO of TechSquare. Thank you, Freddy, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So, like I always do, what I'd like to do is read your bio, and then we're going to just start our conversation. And like we just established as we were talking before, we'll see where it takes us. Freddy is the CEO of TechSquare, where we help tech startups transition merely raising capital to actually generating revenue and monetizing their innovations. He's also an author, speaker, podcaster, and executive mentor. As an executive mentor, his approach is simple. He only guides others in areas where he has walked the walk himself. Over the years, that has meant helping leaders and organizations bridge the gap between vision and execution, as well as between potential and profitability. So, this is great. Thank you really for joining me today. And I want to just dive right in and have our listeners have a better understanding of what it is that you actually do.
Okay. Well, as you can see from my bio, my current life is I have two hats. One is I am the CEO of TechSquare. We work with
Mhm.
technology companies that are startups, and these are startups that have raised many millions of dollars. But like
Okay.
most startups, they've never monetized. They've never sold a product. There are companies that will go up and down and never sell a product. And in the old days, investors didn't really care, but now times have changed and they want to see some profit. They want to see, like it used to be in the mortar and bricks business, you could only go so long until you just turn a profit. And that's what's happening now. So we help companies do that, and we do this mostly in the Southeastern Asian market. We have an office in Seoul, Korea. We also have an
Wow.
office in Dubai. So that's where we work. That is my what I'd say is my main hat, but it's not my passion. My passion is being the executive mentor,
Mm.
and I actually got into becoming an executive mentor. Oh, excuse me. I actually got into being the CEO of TechSquare because of my executive mentor position. And basically, what happened is for many years, I have another company. It's called rabbifreddy.com. And rabbifreddy.com, we dealt in, and we still do, in training of salespeople, mostly salespeople, and we teach communication and train and sales training. While I was doing that, I found myself being drawn to be an executive mentor. Now, what is an executive mentor as opposed to a coach? Well,
Mm.
first of all, a mentor, in my opinion, the difference between a mentor and a coach is simply this: a mentor has walked the walk. And that's my motto. If you listen to my podcast, I always say, I don't. If I didn't walk the walk, I don't talk the talk. That's
Mm.
my thing. And as we know, there are unbelievable coaches out there in every field, and
Mhm.
some of them are so fantastic, even though themselves haven't done what they're teaching. There are law professors who've never been in a courtroom, but they're
Yeah.
unbelievable. There are basketball and other sport coaches who've never played pro ball. And this is very they're a nutritionist who've never had the experience of being overweight, but yet again they know their job. Don't get me wrong.
No,
I
no.
chose a different path. I chose that I was going to only work with people or talk to people where I can say, been there, done that. So that's why I'm a mentor rather than a coach. And the executive part, I just fell into that I found that there were a lot of people who, the higher they get up the totem pole, the harder it is for them to find somebody who they can trust, they can relate to, they can speak to. And as I was trying to expand this business, I found myself with an opportunity in South Korea. And
Wow.
I started working with some South Korean clients. These were C-level people of Fortune 500 companies, but in Korea, like the CEO of X company, Korea.
Right.
And from that, I eventually met my partner, who is now the COO of TechSquare, who's a Korean gentleman, and through
Mhm.
that business. So one thing leads to another. And while TechSquare is an unbelievable business, my passion is still in the area of helping other people. I mentioned I do a podcast. You also mentioned it's called Take Two with Freddie,
Mm.
and Take Two with Freddie with a two, by the way, not the it's not spelled out. Take Two with Freddie is it's a podcast that comes out weekly. It's just I speaking, don't have any guests, and basically it's about people who may be my age and still don't know what they want to be when they grow up. Just talking about what the opportunities are out there. So I apologize, and I don't even remember what your question was, but I hope I've answered it.
Yeah, you did. I was asking you what you do, and so you gave us an overview of all the different things that you're involved in. So there's so many follow-up questions I want to ask. So do you still do sales training, or is that not something that you're involved in anymore?
I do sales training when requested.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something I'm actively pushing now because I'm very busy with other things. But yes, I do sales training as well. Yeah.
Let's take a quick break. I want to remind you that if you're interested in learning more about neuro emotional coaching or kinesiology, if you would like to have a taste, find out what it could do for you or your business, your family, please look at the show notes. There's a link for a 30-minute free introductory meeting, and we can explore it. You can look at what is holding you back, what are your dreams, what is it that you always wanted to achieve. Don't be shy, sign up. Now, let's get back to the show. When I started as a coach, somebody said to me, one of the most important things that you can do in order to actually make sure that your business thrives is to go to sales school. Take some sort of sales training, because as a coach, that's not really, something that you're taught. So I went through Sandler. I'm sure and I loved it. It's like it was really fun. And then I ended up really getting involved with some of the franchisees. I lived in Pittsburgh for 27 years, and worked with people individually, and sort of like supported them in what they were doing. So I have great respect for sales training, and I think it's really important that people spend time in having good sales techniques. So
Well, I will say this, Barbara. I'm familiar with Sandler. I've never worked with them, but I understand they're a very good organization. I personally, I had some training, and I actually am a certified trainer for Dale Carnegie.
okay.
And the Dale Carnegie organization. I don't do it anymore. I haven't been with them for years. But when I was involved with them, one of the things I learned is that, sales for many people have a bad connotation.
It
You
does.
know, like you walk into a cocktail party and people say, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I'm this, I'm that. The minute you say, I'm in sales, and especially something like car sales or whatever, they want to run. And I've had people say, oh, I'm not a salesman. Like they'll preface the conversation, God forbid you should believe that they're a salesman. Well, the truth of the matter is every one of us are a salesman. If
Right.
you're in a relationship, you're a salesman. If you're a parent, if you were a child, you're a salesperson. Everybody in our life. And that's why the Dale Carnegie training was so effective, because it wasn't for salespeople, but it was basically teaching communication skills. And so I believe that any of these organizations, Sandler, for instance, they're specifically focused on people who admit they want to learn how to sell better. But I personally believe we all, across the board, you can't find me one person on this planet Earth who cannot benefit from a course like that. even if they're in a profession where they're in a back room of a back room.
No, I agree with you totally. I mean, it's it made a big difference for me because in the coaching industry, I just met with somebody a couple of days ago. 90% of the people are never able to really support themselves because if you're, a solo practitioner, at the end of the day, it doesn't really. If you're a great coach, if you're a fantastic coach, you still need to, sell yourself and get new clients. Even 30 years later, it's still about, okay, what's my pipeline look like? Where are my clients coming from? And the better you are, the quicker, the less coaching they will need. So the faster you have to replace them.
Right.
So, um, so, I coach all kinds of people from I have clients that are sitting in Hong Kong all the way to Palo Alto. And every once in a while, somebody will come to me and say, I have this great idea. And, how do I vet it? How do I know if this is actually something that would be worthwhile checking out, or like an idea for a product or, a device or something like that? And you said that you are actually, in the get into the game with people when they have already raised millions. Like, what advice do you have for people that sitting around and debating and having maybe the greatest idea ever? What do you tell those people?
So that's a great question. Almost all of us, certainly after a certain age, will find that they can say, I had a great idea, but having a great idea doesn't get you anywhere.
That's
Okay?
right.
It's acting on it. And it's not just a great idea. How many people have said, I could have bought Apple stock at, I could have bought McDonald's at. All of these are very nice if you want to have a conversation, but they don't help you at all. So, first of all, you have to define within yourself, are you talking about a fantasy, a dream, or a goal?
Mm.
Okay. We all have fantasies about everything. And fantasies, unless God steps in, never ever happens and has nothing to do with you. Okay. A dream is one step above a fantasy. They're ready. It's not a fleeting moment. You're giving more thought to it, but you don't believe in it yet. You don't believe it's really possible. And then there is a goal when you're ready to take it to the next step. So if you're a coach, for instance, and this is your client, the first thing that you have to go through in my experience, you have to go with your client is, let's figure out what this really is.
Mm.
Okay? Because we all have things we fantasize about. And yes, it was handed us on a silver platter, we take it. But are we willing to put in the work, the effort, whatever it takes? For instance, let me just take something, and I use this a lot when I train in sales. I like to use personal relationships as examples of salespeople. Okay,
Good.
you are in a situation where you see somebody. Let's say it's an office party, and you see somebody across the way. You're very attracted to that person, but that person is what they call the big man on campus. That person is the Playboy centerfold material. That person is, in your opinion, so way out of your league. But you want to get to know that person better. You want to date that person, whatever it is you want. Okay, so you just had the fantasy. Fantasy, I want to be with that person. Now, we've all had that. See somebody, say, whoa, love to get to know him or her better, but guess what? Nothing comes of it. Okay? So then the person who says, I'm going to make an effort. Again, that's the word. He or she has to make an effort now to get to that person. Now, it could be a way. I remember one time when I was much younger, I found out that a person I was attracted to, we had a mutual friend, and I went to this friend and said, call them up. I had to put some research into it. Sometimes I just have the guts to go over and say hello, fearing rejection, which is one of the biggest fears we have. Okay,
Right.
so going from fantasy to dream is already a big deal. To go from dream to goal is saying, I'm not God, so I have no clue if I can really make it happen. But anything that I can do, I'm going to do. I'm focused on this person, and I'm going to figure a way to make it happen. And we don't have the time, but I could tell you stories in my own life where not that I got the girl, but I went out with the girl. In other words, my goal was to go out and I went out with her. Didn't mean it necessarily worked out, but I got to because I set a goal. But everything in life takes some types of effort. It doesn't have to be physical effort. It can be emotional effort. It can be combating the fear of something like rejection. Okay, I'll give you a quick story. I was once asked to speak. I was divorced. I'm now remarried, but for the period that I was divorced, I was invited and asked to speak at a singles weekend. And I got up and I spoke to the crowd. And one of the things I said was, I was trying to say that most people in this room would like to find a partner. Marriage,
Right.
they like to find a serious partner. And yet, and the truth is, I said, if most of you people here, they were both men and women, if you were with anybody else on a deserted island, most of you would make it work. But yet, here, you're all very picky and choosy. And I was trying to encourage them that you need to make a step of asking a person for a cup of coffee. And the person who's asked has to say yes. It doesn't matter. Always go for the first time. And then I did something very daring. I said to this group, and there were about 300 people there, at least 50% were women. And I said, let me ask you something. If I were to ask any of you women out, how many of you would go out with me for a cup of coffee? And I raised my hand like this. Now, that could have slammed in my face because who knows what would have happened. But with me, thank God, almost every hand went up. Now, again, I got them into the momentum. I almost forced them to put their hand up the way I projected, but I still had to take a chance, and I could have had egg on my face afterwards. Okay. By the way, my current wife had nothing to do with that that weekend. But what I'm trying to say is that in everything in life, you have to decide. So getting back to your clients, they have to decide, and then once they're serious about it, then there's a whole nother story. And one of those, just a couple of quickies that I would throw out is that. Um, First of all, people like to invent something brand new, never been there. That is the hardest thing to do. It's so much easier to make money and sell something where every Tom, Dick, and Harry does it because people are already used to spending money. You have to make your USP much better than the competition. But I don't advise. Now, sometimes you may come out with something which is, oh, wow. And that's a different story. And the
Right.
other thing I'd say in that same point is that speak to people who already are successful in whatever it is you want to do. Okay. You have to be willing to ask for advice. Problem with a lot of people is they think they know it all, they can do it alone, they don't need help. Everybody needs help. That's my thought.
No, I agree with you. I did an app about 15 years ago, and I was all excited about this idea that I had. And sadly, I listened to some people who were in the industry who then, talked me out of doing what I really wanted to do. And now I have this app sitting there. It needs to, it's like every so often you need to have it needs to have a new operating system, or you need to update it according to, Google and Apple standards. And it's exactly like that. I think about it. It's my fantasy, but I'm not really ready to, to take action. So, or make it a goal. So it's like that. Once we are really committed to something, then I also believe that the right people will show up for us to talk to, for us to take action steps. It's like, are we really committed? And I think the fear of rejection should not be underestimated, because I think people sort of wrap it around in general fear, but I think that's important that you said that, because we're so, we can be so fragile. We are so afraid to be rejected, either because we've experienced that previously in our life, or something, we're fragile where we are at the moment. So it's important to take that into consideration, that when you have a goal and you go out and it's a bold goal, that there's going to be rejection. People are going to say, no, thank you, I'm not interested, or I can't help you. Well,
Barbara, if I can say something here, you mentioned in the introduction that I'm an author. So
yeah.
I've written 3 books, and 2 of them are about sales or business. But the first one is called Born on the Right Side of the Tracks. And this book is a memoir of my childhood. I was in fact, what does it say here? Here's the book, by the way. But it says, a true story about an out-of-the-box kid stuck in an in-the-box world.
Wow.
Now, in this book, I carried around a lot of shame and fear for decades of what had transpired to me and what I had done as a child. And it took a lot out of me, only at the age of 50, to write this book. So
Wow.
when you talk about fear of rejection, it was that was the fear. I had a lot to say, and at the end of the day, most people who read this book, it helps them in some form or another, because most people can relate, either as a parent or as a child, to what transpired in that book. But I almost didn't write it because I was scared. And if you look at so many successful people in the world, both present and past, they were scared out of their mind. And imagine, had they not taken the step, whatever it was, to fight their fear, we would have been so much less. We would have so much less in our world. So you're right. Fear of rejection is a big, big, big deal.
If I can ask you, who were you afraid of, who were going to reject you?
Everybody, the man. Basically, I was afraid. You see, as it says in the book cover, I lived in a very in the box world. Okay, I grew up. I was somebody who grew up in on the outside what would look like a fairy tale world. Not a. I didn't grow up in in the sticks in Africa somewhere, or in slums. My mother wasn't a drug addict. I don't have any of that stuff. I was born into the regular world. Okay, and once you're born into that world, the truth is, once you're born into any world, things are expected of you.
That's right.
Right. And as you grow, you have less and less excuses. So when, as I grew, I became more and more embarrassed about some things, which the truth is, and now I know, I had nothing to be embarrassed about, but I was embarrassed they would come out. So I would do everything in my power to hide these facts. And it just compounds the fear of the problem, and it affects your life, the people around you. It's just an ongoing thing. Fear is a killer. Fear is a killer. And when I say a killer, I'm also talking about a physical killer. Fear and stress are very there's a big relationship. You ask any medical professional, and they would tell you if the stress factor was taken out of illnesses,
Mm.
hospitals would be 90% less because most illnesses, I don't care what you think you have, which has nothing to do, in some way has been caused or made worse by stress.
Mm.
Stress comes from fear.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah. Wow. So, what do you? I mean, you seem like a person. You're like mostly up, and what do you do when the fear is upon you, or when do you have like tools to share, or like what's your conversation with yourself? When you have a personal rainy day.
Okay, so first of all, it's all personal. It's all personal. What will help a person,
Mm-hmm.
but and a person, you need to find out what helps you. And again, don't worry about what other people will say. And I will give you an example here. First of all, I love nature. I love to be alone. When I need my time, especially if I'm in a bad place, if I could walk along the beach, I happen to live right next to the beach, so it's very, very convenient. But you give me a forest, anywhere where I can have my peace and quiet, I love to walk. I talk about the beach. I have never spent time at the sea and not come back in a better mood. Not going into the sea, just walking. There's also actually a scientific study about what water does for a person. So yes, that's for me. I guess, my only vice in life at this point is I enjoy fine cigars. I'm not pushing anybody. Okay, I don't smoke very often, but I do enjoy fine cigars. And many times I'll go out on one of my walks, and that will relax me. And I want to share something with you. My wife, the most wonderful woman around, I have to say, but she was not happy when we got married, and she found out that I smoked cigars because she knew nothing about them, and she assumed it was like cigarettes. And at some point, she even asked my doctor, "Is it okay if he smokes cigars?" And the doctor said, "Well, how often does he smoke?" "Oh, once every week or 2 weeks. That's fine." Okay. But she was not happy about it. Today, there are times when she will tell me, "Go have a cigar," because she knows, now I won't have it in the house, obviously, but she knows what it does for me. So I don't care whether people like it or don't like it. Obviously, I would never smoke in front of people who it offends, but it makes me happy. It helps me relax. I do it. I also am a big reader, which helps me. I listen to podcasts like yours. Many times, just listening and being around, it changes your attitude. And the biggest thing I've learned, I spoke to a friend of mine once who had volunteered for a suicide hotline,
Mm.
and they were taught never, never disagree with a person. In other words, somebody says, I want to kill myself." You say, "That's fine. I understand you. I'm not here to talk you out of it. Talk you out of it. I just want you to wait till tomorrow.
Mm.
Let's talk about doing it tomorrow," because their feeling was that tomorrow's a whole new day. And we've seen that. How many times have we went to bed really upset with something or somebody or ourselves, and we feel so much better the next day? It's not always a given, but time as a perspective is a very healing thing. So, and the last thing I would add to that is, don't ever feel guilty about needing being down. It's part of every battery needs to be recharged. Every battery as far as I know, that even with the technology of today, there's not a battery that lasts forever. At
No,
some
no.
at some point, it either needs to be thrown out and replaced or recharged.
So I think if I would get to the essence of what you just shared with us, it's to me it sounds a lot about accepting, accepting where you are, accepting whatever state you're in. If you're down, then accept that. If somebody comes to you, they're in a wherever they are, just accept that, and then just to see where you go from there. And it's easier said than done because we are a lot. I mean, I can speak for myself. At times I'm critical, and that little voice in my head has all kinds of things to say, and then just to remind myself, okay, accept wherever you are, whatever's going on, because we're always doing the best that we can with what we have at the time, and to remember that, even though it may not look that way.
You're exactly right. In fact, one of the things I discussed even on my last episode of my podcast is this notion. Most people, and this is part of the fear, one of the fears is we spend our most of our time in worry, that we're either worrying about mistakes we did in the past or what's going to come tomorrow. And we don't spend time with today. It's
Hmm.
very in the now today. We're always, and I think the most peaceful, best place, if you want my secret to happiness, it's just be in the now as much as possible. It's not always possible. Just be in the now. One of the things I mentioned this week's podcast was that mostly every day of mine are good days. It doesn't mean I don't have my mosquito bites, but they're almost all good days. But if you would hear me yesterday, there's an expression as I go, today is the tomorrow I was worried about yesterday.
Mm.
In other words, I'm worried about yesterday, about that today's going to be a bad day. But today's a good day. But today I'm going to start worrying about tomorrow. Well, statistics show that almost every day is a good day. Why do I even worry about it? So it's all about the now. In fact, I don't know if you're familiar with the Serenity Prayer.
Oh yeah.
There's, right. So I have a keychain. My keychain has a Serenity Prayer on it. Okay. And you mentioned you used it before, which is something that I really I've spent my whole life evolving into, about just being yourself.
Hmm.
Okay. We have no control over the cards we were dealt and are continually be dealt. All we can do is play them. Okay. And we have to stop beating ourselves up for the cards we are dealt. At the end of the day, how are we playing them today? And one thing I'll also add is sometimes I do this exercise for myself. God willing, at 120, I'm lying on my deathbed. What's going to be important to me? Okay. When I'm critical of somebody who I don't like the way she did her hair or something like that, okay, and it's eating me up inside, who gonna give a rip? Not me, not her. Nobody's gonna care. But yet it's invading my today. And that's the problem. So,
Excellent. Thank you. Well, this seems like a great note to end on.
okay.
Anything else that you want to share with us? We're going to put everything in the show notes, your book, and the way people can reach you. But any last words that you want to leave us with today?
I just want to, the from what I understand, your business, Barbara, and this podcast is about helping people, about getting people to grow, to be better.
Right.
And I have learned that it's never over till it's over. That I myself am about to turn 65 years old, and it seems like it's a blur how I got to this point. And I have no idea how much longer the Lord has in store for me. It could be a day, it could be another 60 years. I have no idea. But today is all that I care about. Okay, today I want to have fun. Today I want to be in love. Today I want to be loved. I want all that stuff today. And if I focus on my today, tomorrow has a way of taking care of itself. But it's important that I do this today. So that's what I'd like to leave to your audience. As far as getting in contact with me, there are lots of ways. First of all, there I have two websites. This one is www.techsquare.com. That's TECK square.com. The other is rabbifreddy.com, and it's Freddy with a Y, like my name is there, rabbifreddy.com. Both of them have contacts, and you can send me a message. It'll go right to my email. And if you need to, my emails are very simple: Freddy@techsquare.com or Freddy@rabbifreddy.com. So, and as far as my books are concerned, they're available on Amazon and any other place you want to, these kind of sellers. So, okay.
Fantastic. Yes, thank you for sharing that.
Thank
Well,
you.
Bye Freddy. Thank you so much. And I wish you a happy birthday and Shana Tova.
Thank you very much, and the same to you.
Hi, and here are the key takeaways from today's podcast. Number 1, define your ideas. Determine if they're fantasies, dreams, or actionable goals. Number 2, take small steps. Start by making efforts towards your goal, even if they seem daunting. Number 3, seek advice. Reach out to successful people in your field for guidance and support. Number 4, embrace rejection. Understand that fear of rejection often holds us back from achieving our goals. Number 5, practice self-acceptance. Learn to accept where you are in your journey without harsh self-judgment. And number 6, focus on the present. Spend more time living in the now rather than worrying about the past or the future. Thanks for listening and watching. Please like my YouTube channel and have a great week. Take care.